the context for this one-on-one is that Holly has signed up to join a CCAN email list at an Earth Day event in Morgantown. And so I called through the list of people who signed up at this tabling event to have one-on-one conversations with them and get them plugged into the organization. So that's how Holly's gotten connected. So anyways, Holly, let's get started. Holly, thanks so much for taking the time today to meet with me, and so we can learn more about each other, and I can talk to you a little bit about what's going on with CCAN. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good to hear from you.
So we met very briefly. There was a lot of people at this Earth Day event. You came to the CCAN table. Our information about the work that we're doing, particularly I think in targeting Manchin for the budget reconciliation, seemed to really excite you. But you ended up signing up to join our email list, which I'm so grateful for. I'm just curious, I'd love to hear just more about like why you decided to come over to the table and why you decided to sign up to join the email list.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of fun at the event and I met some really great people. And I've kind of been on the outer edge, like on the outskirts, so to say, of climate advocacy. I've helped volunteer, wrote some LTEs for Mom's Clean Air Force. And now I just really want to like delve in a little deeper and find out what CCAN is about.
Yeah, so excited that you're joining, that you decided to sign up with us. That makes a lot of sense to me. Talk to me a little bit more, like what have you been seeing in your state and in your community that's made you particularly passionate in getting involved in climate work?
Yeah, well, I think it starts, I grew up in St. Albans, West Virginia, which is right across the river from a big chemical plant. Folks even call the area Chemical Valley. And so I grew up my whole life seeing pollutive industries juxtaposed with like the beautiful natural surroundings that West Virginia has in abundance. And I, I've always been super connected to nature. But I became a mother about 6 years ago, and that made me really start to think more about climate in a different way, climate in the way of how it's going to impact our future generations and the kind of world I want for my kids. And yeah, so I feel like it's time to take a bigger step.
Oh yeah, totally. I and particularly how the pollutants have damaged the environment and your kid, and also now having kids is certainly that's a big motivator. It's actually similarly for myself. 15. I have a 15-month-old daughter. It was it was a big decision to have biological children, in part because of climate change, and every day she's a big motivator for me to try to make this world more habitable as she grows older, and also for me, one of the reasons I've got plugged into organizing work is because the community that I've been a part of for most of my life, being the Muslim community in the U.S., was severely under attack after 9/11 in terms of discriminatory policies, but particularly the wars that were launched across the Middle East were in part certainly motivated by capitalism and the desire to have control over natural resources, including oil, and I think that certainly been both a narrative as well as it's just been a narrative that has really shaped my life and caused me to get involved in organizing work. And so, this is both the pipeline fights in West Virginia are connected to the struggle that we have, with war and racism and capitalism more broadly worldwide. So I just appreciate you sharing that. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know that you were particularly excited about the work that we've been doing in West Virginia, particularly in targeting Manchin and to be in support of the budget reconciliation bill. I also wanted to tell you that, like, as we're doing organizing work to build support with cities across West Virginia to be supportive of the budget reconciliation bill, we're also doing bold work in Maryland. Recently, we and our partners passed legislation that put Maryland on a pathway to get to 60% greenhouse gas emission reductions by 2031. And also, we have one of our organizers in West Virginia is helping to lead the fight to stop the building of pipelines in Virginia. And we've actually successfully, with our partners, both stopped and mitigated the expansion of and the building of pipelines, particularly the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which you may have heard about in Virginia. And so we're continuing to try to build upon an active base of folks in our organization that starts with our members. We're trying to invest in building membership in those states, and building a network and teams of members who are deeply committed and leading on this work. And so this is helps us, having this membership model helps us to build power with people on the ground. We have our members who were helping to actually lead, for example, an art build in Virginia, an art build that was a part of one of our significant events that led to the shutting down of the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And so we're trying to bring that to West Virginia here too, and get our membership to be organizing around this budget reconciliation. And we have our first, we have a membership meeting that's going to be coming up in May. I believe it's on May the 10th at 6:30 p.m. They'll be targeting our federal team. So wanted to see if, and our federal work. So wanted to see if you would be available to join us for that membership meeting and meeting like-minded folks.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to send you an email. And well, what's the best way to communicate with you? Do you like to communicate over text or over email?
Yeah, text or email they're both great. Sometimes I live in a rural area, so it's good to have both.
Amazing. So I think we're gonna get some really great updates at this membership meeting, and our members are going to talk about opportunities, particularly in Morgantown, to be organizing to put pressure on Senator Manchin. And I think it's going to be a great way for you to identify where you want to get plugged in more specifically. But very, very excited to have you join us for that. Thanks so much, Holly. I'm going to follow up. I'll send you a text with a link to RSVP for that membership meeting.
Cool. Sounds good. I'll look forward to it.
Okay, great. And end scene.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass it to Emily just to lead us through a few-minute debrief. I told Emily to not hold back and to give us the sauce. So walk us through it.
Absolutely. So I have some questions for our audience too.
So first we're going to talk about what did the organizer do well and what, and so here the organizer is Mustafa, is the person who is really making the ask in the meeting. So we're going to talk about what did Mustafa do well and what maybe could have Mustafa done differently. So right off the bat, I think that Mustafa did a good job of sharing his story and really connecting the issue at hand to a larger set of values. And if anybody else has other things that they want to shout out about what Mustafa did well, go ahead and put it in the chat. Would you, I think that I would want to have a nice meeting with Mustafa after that. So seeing that, I would love to have that meeting. That seemed really nice. We got to connect, he got to connect and really, explain who he is as a person, and it made me like kind of interested in working with him more, certainly just even as an audience member. Yes, very friendly, very friendly. Is there anything that Mustafa might have done differently? Yeah, I think that with this amount of time, you know, this was a pretty tight meeting. So I think that the level of, I noticed that they're talking, the amount that they were talking was pretty good in terms of the two people. If they had more time, I think it would have been good to hear more from Holly. It's very easy. They're one of my favorite organizing theorists, Jane McAlevey, always says that organizers need to talk less. And I think that's always true. But I think with this kind of compressed time frame, there was a lot of information that Mustafa kind of had to get out. So I kind of understand that, but I think in a longer meeting, you would want to make sure to be listening a little bit more and not rushing as much through the different points. But I think Mustafa did hit all of the points that he was supposed to hit. What were some of the good open-ended questions that y'all heard that you think we might use again? I really liked, what made you come up to the table? I think that's an interesting, that's pretty good. Maybe they'd have a very specific answer like, well, you were giving away candy and I have a child. So, that is one thing. But no, I think it was good of like, what are you looking for, in climate, like why climate activism, that kind of thing, was really good. And there's also, we have another question of like, how are you making sure that you're demonstrating active listening? I think Mustafa did a good job of repeating things back to Holly. That is always, it might seem a little bit kind of corny and obvious sometimes, but repeating things back to people to make sure that they know that you're listening is a good habit to get into. And I think he did that well. And that's just, I think, something to keep in mind, is just to really show people that. And he did get a good, very specific commitment at the end. And then I really liked that he he also went over, how are we going to stay in touch? Like, what is the best way for you? Personally, I'm not so good at email. If you worked with me, you know that I'm not always as good as email, but I tend to be better with text. So I really appreciate that point. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sort of rushing through this, but I hope that covers anything. If anybody has any other last thoughts to any of those questions that we didn't have time to get through, feel free to put it in the chat. But overall, I think Mustafa did a pretty good job.